And at this moment, President Trump is in the Situation Room. It's been about an hour, reportedly, that he's been with members of his National Security Council. So we were following this the last hour. We're still waiting to see what comes about after that. They are discussing the United States' next move after Israel's stunning preemptive offensive to cripple Iran's nuclear operation and neutralize many of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's top brass. They were on it. Precision strikes. They've taken a lot of those people out. Now Iran says the strikes are a declaration of war. Iranian media claims Israel has resumed its strikes within that country now, and the IDF is releasing this brand new video showing top-secret Mossad fighters that were operating inside Iran. Now, we found out last hour that they had been there on kind of a pre-operation mode, and this had been gearing up for quite some time. So they had some good intel from within that country. The Jewish state of Israel says Iran has started to respond, with some 100 drones having already been sent toward Israel. And the IDF says it's deploying reserve forces to all potential combat arenas within the country. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner, here with my co-hosts Kayleigh McEnany and Emily Campagno. Also joining us today for the first time on the couch with us, Jillian Michaels, host of the Keeping It Real podcast. And that's exactly what we're going to do this hour, keep it real. George P. Bush also keeps it real. Former Texas Land Commissioner and partner at Michael Best LLP. So great to have them both. First, let's go straight to Alex Hogan. She's live in Tel Aviv for us. Alex.
Hi, Harris. Israel continues to carry out strikes in Iran in what has been an elaborate and complex plan to target not only Iran's nuclear capabilities, but also high-ranking members of Iran's military. It's been 16 hours since the start of this operation, Operation Rising Lion. The IDF and Mossad carried out a coordinated attack, which began at 3 a.m. this morning, local time. This was a highly planned mission. Again, it took years of planning. The operation involved Mossad smuggling weapons and drones deep into Iran long before the attack. They set up a drone base and they activated the drones this morning to hit Iran's surface-to-air missiles. It also involved those drones hitting specific apartments. The IDF, at the same time, deployed hundreds of fighter jets to strike hundreds of sites in Iran. Multiple explosions were heard at Iran's Natanz nuclear power facility. That's Iran's main enrichment facility. The IDF today says that most of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps high command was killed while gathering in an underground headquarters. That includes several of the highest-ranking military commanders. Iran also says that 6 nuclear scientists were killed. They make up some of the roughly 80 people who are dead and more than 320 people who are reportedly injured. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says this strike initially was planned out for April. It carried out in the early hours of this morning and says that the U.S. was notified before any of this took place. Washington says it was not involved and that the top priority right now is still protecting American forces in the region as U.S. destroyers are moving closer in to the area. Iran's foreign ministry firing back at all of this today, saying, quote, the aggressive actions of the Zionist regime against Iran could not have been carried out without the coordination and the approval of the United States. Thus, the U.S. government, as the main supporter of this regime, will be held responsible for the dangerous consequences of Israel's adventurism. Iran, in response to all of these actions today, launched as many as 100 drones. We know that Israel was able to intercept those drones using not only the Air Force deploying fighter jets, but also using the Navy's resources. We have seen more incoming drones here in Israel. It seems so far that the IDF has managed to shoot all of those down. But this is not over yet. Both Iran is promising further retaliation, and Israel is warning citizens here to brace for what could come in the days and potentially weeks to follow. Harris.
Alex, thank you. You know, kind of a flavor, because President Trump has been talking with media. He spoke first with our Brett Baer last night. To CNN, he said Iran's hardline negotiators are now dead. And the anchor asked, does that mean Israel got them? And he says, well, they didn't die of COVID. And I'm just quoting the transcript of what was said. I didn't actually see it, so it might have benefited to watch it. What's your response to kind of our allies around the world and what we're seeing right now?
Well, I think the president is positioning our country in the right way, and that's offering a backdoor diplomatic channel to the Iranians and almost leveraging his art of the deal approach to negotiating by saying Iran has a very clear choice here, and that's to join the international community of peaceful nations that would only use enriching uranium for peaceful and civilian energy purposes, which is the deal on the table. It's a very reasonable deal that the U.S. has been a part of in a collaborative effort with the greater Middle East. But this Iranian regime since 1979 has talked about the extermination of Jews, the elimination of a sovereign nation in the form of Israel. And in that area of the world, you have to take those words and actions very seriously, particularly in the wake of October 7, the attack, their funding of Hamas, Hezbollah, other terrorist groups. They are truly the head of the octopus that is strangling peace-desiring nations in the region. And so we exhausted every single diplomatic effort possible. Special Envoy Witkoff was going to Amman. I believe the offer is still there for a sixth round of discussions on Sunday. So the Israelis really were backed into a corner here.
So I know it wasn't too long ago that you were in this region. Would it surprise you if Iran shows up at that table, or do you anticipate they would not do that?
It would surprise me significantly, and if they do, it's a low-level official that does not have negotiating authority, because the attacks appear to be so significant that their leadership is in total disarray, and they have to. Their priority probably right now is assembling what their response is, what the kinetic response is going to be, not diplomatic.
Kayleigh, I know it's been a little bit more than an hour that they've been in the Situation Room, and we have quite a list of people that are in the room with him. National Security Council. It is not open to the press, as we might, assume at this point. You've been there at important moments. Talk to us about what that's like.
You're huddled in the Situation Room. You know you are in this place. No one can hear you. You can have the most internal of communications. The White House has come forward. We saw the Rubio statement. You put it up saying, the U.S. had no involvement in this. I personally believe there's some 4D chess going on. I personally believe that the White House did indeed know. I believe that, in fact, it was a coordinated strategy for President Trump to stand up there and say, let's negotiate, let's get this deal done, knowing full well that it gives cover to Israel to take action like this. Axios had some reporting to that end. The White House denies all of that. But you'd expect the White House to deny that if they're part of the bigger picture. So that's my personal belief. I think they're having discussions pursuant to that next moves, how to support Israel. Because one thing I know, having been around the president for a long time, his gut is to support Israel. He does support Israel, with the view that America always comes first, protecting our men and women, making sure that they are not deployed overseas. But if I could step back for a moment and just praise Israel on the clandestine operation they have put forward. When you put these pieces together, we're reading the Esfa Jahabad Air Base, where they snuck in explosive drones and hit the launchers. Imagine sneaking something into Iran. What our Trey Yingst is reporting, that these military generals were aggregated in a meeting and kept there because of specific Mossad intelligence about how to get these generals in a room. I've seen pictures of pinpointed strikes on the bedroom window of top Iranian officials from more than 1,000 miles away. This is what Israel did. This is the kind of clandestine operation you see in movies and you wonder if it's real. It's real.
It's real
in Israel.
Jillian, to that point, Lieutenant Colonel Shoshani with the IDF, who's their spokesperson today, was saying they did some asset flipping by having Mossad and intelligence on the ground inside Iran, and that this was a many years-long operation leading up to this. You're nodding.
Well, I'm nodding because I do agree with you that it's 4D chess. And just as the layman in the room, I've been a bit confounded in Trump's second term with the 180, right? We went from I'm suffocating them, I'm bankrupting them, I'm taking out Soleimani to I'm going to negotiate with Iran. I was like, I don't understand this, as they're chanting death to America. And then it's like not putting sanctions on Putin, but he just mentioned that he spoke to Putin a week and a half ago and Iran came up. So are you not putting sanctions on Putin because you want his cooperation with regard to what's happening here? Why was Israel sidelined in all these meetings that you had in the Middle East just a few weeks ago? But we know that the Saudis and the people in the UAE are not fans of Iran. So I think very clearly the breadcrumbs were there. Yeah. And I also think this was inevitable. I was very confused. I understand that the Americans are beleaguered by foreign wars, but this seems to be a very different thing here. There are weapons of mass destruction. It does affect Americans. So
and the world.
I don't understand what the option was. Like, kick the can until they do have a nuclear weapon? So, for me, sitting on the sidelines, I felt that this was inevitable, and I don't see the alternative if you avoid it, it seems potentially catastrophic.
Well, the kick the can part we saw for 4 years under ex-President Biden. Emily.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I'm a layperson, too, in this. I spoke with my Israeli friends last night who were hunkered down in a bunker all night. And a couple things about how they're feeling right now. So first of all, they're feeling victorious and triumphant after this, I don't know if it's a salvo or just the first step in this incredibly coordinated, deeply planned, and incredibly elite attack of what would be a nuclear power and a frightening escalation. And they also believe deeply that it is with coordination with the United States. Obviously, I don't know anything, but at the end of the day, they see us as their ally and their friend. They've been asking for our prayers for them and also that the U.S. stands behind them diplomatically and politically, they said. And I'll note, too, I just blanked on what I was going to say, actually, so I'm sure it wasn't that exciting. But I think for those, thank you, for those who I think are sort of decrying this, I've been hearing this on the left, it's like
Same.
certain, yeah,
And on the right, by the way. It's like you've got that split within the right of
You
like
do.
MAGA and the neocons. But that's my point. I don't see where the option is.
Yeah, and that exactly, that for those saying this was the escalation, wasn't the escalation the violent rhetoric that was coupled with all of these steps taken toward actions of nuclear bomb creation. The UN watchdog, for the first time in 20 years, just condemned Iran. Like, the building energy of that, the strategy of just watching it in the hopes it diffuses on its own, bears no one any favors. This is what de-escalates. This show of force for strength for peace is exactly what the world needed to see. So thank you, Israel.
Yeah, God bless them. And what you're both saying is what Aaron Cohn, a special ops with IDF, said last hour. He said, look, we could see this happening in real time, and it was forecast, and they jumped in years ago to yield what we've seen today.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.